So noise is related to hearing loss. So how can we protect ourselves and our kids for the long run? So today we're getting advice from audiologist Dr. Gnewikow. And tell us, this is so important because we need these ears for our whole life, and it brings us happiness to be able to hear. What can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, I don't think people realize that noise-induced hearing loss, according to the National Institute of Health, NIH in Washington, is the primary cause or the greatest cause of permanent hearing loss. We live in a noisy environment. We take a lot of things for granted. And a lot of people wish they could have done things better, but they can't turn the clock back. I think the first thing you need to do when you talk about noise is try to limit the amount of time that you're exposed to it.
Right.
As the intensity of the signal increases, the duration needs to decrease. So if you're around something extremely loud, sometimes it can cause immediate damage.
Wow.
So if you're in a position where you don't have hearing protection, try to limit the exposure time. Then we have to deal with things like devices. We live in a world of devices, iPods and MP3 players. If there's a way to play those at a volume that's comfortable but not where you're flinching every time the volume goes up a little, then you want to try to set them at a reasonable level. If you set them at a level where you can't hear people around you because the signal coming through that is so loud, it's possibly at a point that it could damage your hearing. This becomes particularly important with children because you have no control over young children, and I would feel like in general it's not a good idea to let little children have iPods. If they do, you use one where you can set it yourself and where they are not able to adjust it to a higher level. Then you have these issues with amplifying devices that you see advertised on the internet or in a drugstore or through a magazine someplace that will allow you to hear at something at 300 yards that is really unreasonable, you can't hear. The problem you have to deal with is some of those may not have protective circuits in them, and if you're wearing something that is an amplifier that has no protective circuit, you may actually be damaging your hearing. So I would be very reluctant to use those kinds of devices. And then people will say, well, what about a hearing aid? Because people with hearing loss use them. So if I'm wearing my hearing aid and I get around loud noise, would not that be an issue? And I've had many patients to ask me about that. Hearing aids that are well fit by an audiologist have compression circuits in them. So as the volume around you gets louder, the hearing aid turns its volume down. And on impact noise, such as I drop the dishes on the floor or a car backfires, the hearing aid will actually shut itself down in milliseconds, which is very, very quick. So those are some things you can do by way of devices. Then you have to think of things like actually protecting your hearing when you're around things that are not devices. There are a number of different types of hearing protectors that you can buy. You can buy them at sporting goods stores, gun stores. You can buy them at places that sell construction equipment because people who are working in high levels of noise of construction should have them. I've got several over here just to kind of show you. One of the most common is a foam plug. They're very inexpensive and they work very, very efficiently. You simply roll them up, you insert them into the canal of the ear, and you leave them in for about 10 seconds and they will expand to the point where they fill your ear. You can get custom protectors that are molded to the shape of the ear so that they simply slip into the ear and fit all of the contours of the ear. Personally, I'm not convinced that the custom protectors are as good as the pliable ones because when the foam expands, these seal the ear probably a bit better. Then you have the type that goes under the chin or over your head, which are basically the same thing as the foam, but you can do other things. You don't have to roll them up to put them in. You can do it very quickly if you're in a hurry. My favorite is basically the standard shooter's muff. They're inexpensive. They go completely over the ears, and as long as you've got a good fit, I think these give you about as good a protection as anything. The big issue is wear something. And what happens if you have any of these others, you're out about ready to crank up your chainsaw and you say, well, where are my little earplugs? I can't find them, but it's too much trouble. I'll just go ahead, just this one time won't hurt. Whereas if you have earmuffs and they're hanging in your workshop, they're hanging in your garage next to your weed eater or your leaf blower or whatever. You can see them and you can very easily use them. So I am kind of in favor of the earmuffs more than these others for the average person, simply because they're more user-friendly. So the bottom line is, we live in a noisy world. We can't get rid of the noise. We're around all kinds of things, from lawnmowers to chainsaws to rifles, and all of these things are potentially damaging to our hearing. We only have one set of ears. Let's try to take care of them as best we can.
And Audiology Hearing Aid Associates has 2 area locations to better serve you. Their Lynchburg location is on Langhorne Road. Their number is 434-528-4245. The other location is on Main Street in Danville. The number there is 434-799-6288. You can also find out more online at digitalhearingforyou.com. And we'll be right back.